There are two kinds of hardship that can befall a person. Two kinds of hardship. The first is what we might call involuntary hardship. This is what happens to you without you wanting it. You're not asking for it or anything. It makes me think of the stories of Joseph or Job. Immense suffering and pain and hardship came to them. Because you live in a fallen world, because all creation is groaning to be made new, and the people that you live around are also sinners, because of all of this, pain and hardship and and conflict and stress is going to come to you. It's inevitable. You cannot avoid it. As a result of the fall, we saw how part of the curse was that thorns and thistles in the garden were going to make work more difficult and painful and strenuous. And so here is something important that you need to know about involuntary hardship. Involuntary hardship could refine you. It has the ability to prune you like it did Joseph and Job, cause you to grow, but it can also make matters worse. It can also make matters worse. Involuntary hardship is not guaranteed to refine you. Suffering could come upon you and you could not get better, but far worse. It does not take strength, endurance, or faith to enter into involuntary hardship because everybody goes through it. Now, on the other hand, voluntary hardship is not a result of the fall. Look with me or recall with me Genesis chapter 1. How it said God blessed Adam and Eve. God blessed them and said to them, have dominion. God blessed them and said to them, have dominion over the fish of the sea, birds of the heavens, every living thing. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant that is yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in it. And God said, there are 4 rivers, and one of them, at the end of them, is gold. So hear what's being said. God blessed them and said to them, work hard. Voluntary hardship. God blessed them and said to them, work hard. Then recall with me the blessing of Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. God said to Abraham, and I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. God blessed him and said to him, be a blessing. God blessed him and said to him, you are going to bless the entire world. And so we tend to view God's blessing as him giving us gifts. We tend to view God's blessing as him making our lives easier. And that could be an aspect of God's blessing. But have you ever thought of God's blessing in relation to him giving you hard work to do? Have you ever thought of God blessing you and giving you countless people to serve, to be a blessing to? Right? We could look at the guy who's got 12 kids and say, you're blessed, brother. And part of his blessing is he's got a lot of work to do. And that doesn't mean he's not a blessed man. It means he is a blessed man because he's got work to do and people to bless. God orchestrated the world in such a way that when you work hard, when you give yourself away, when you give yourself to voluntary hardship, you're blessed. There's a return, the land gives back, right? Sometimes you go down the river and find the gold. Sometimes the land blesses in a monetary way, but sometimes it's a completely non-monetary way. Sometimes it's just spiritual or emotional or whatever. And get this, your Savior submitted himself to voluntary hardship. He gave up his glory that he had with the Father and took on the likeness of our flesh. He took on our weakness. He chose to humble himself. He submitted himself to this voluntary hardship when he went to the cross. Right? When Jesus died on the cross, this was not merely him suffering at the expense of somebody that wanted to kill him. Jesus willingly laid down his life. He laid down his life of his own accord. He agreed to do this in the covenant of redemption in eternity past. Yes, Father, I will volunteer up myself to save mankind, to die, to suffer. Voluntary hardship. And so we should have, in light of this reality, as a people of God, we should have the hardest workers in Lowndes County right here. We should. We should recover that Protestant work ethic. We can talk about more later, right? We should have the hardest homeschool working moms. We should have the hardest working grandmas, that make the best desserts. We should have the hardest working pastors who labor over their people to shepherd them well in the word. And because we believe that hard work is good and not merely a result of the fall, but it is good, there is glory there. It is part of the fabric that God wove into the world. And he will use our hard work to build his kingdom. This is part of why I love Christian education so much, especially in our world, in our time. Because a family and a father and a mother come together and they say, we are going to actively choose to make our lives harder. We are going to choose this voluntary hardship. Why? To bless our children. We're going to work hard and be a blessing to our children. That is why Christian education is such a beautiful thing. And what does it look like? What could it look like if 20, 30, 40 households take this voluntary hardship upon themselves of Christian education? What could that look like? What could God do in our town if 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 families do that for 2, 3, 4 generations? What would the fruit of that look like, y'all? It would be amazing. That's what we're laboring towards. Tons of people crumble and barely tread water when involuntary hardship comes to them. That suffering comes to them, that thing that they were not expecting comes upon them, and they crumble because they rarely, if ever, have devoted themselves to voluntary hardship. Right? Devoting yourself to doing what is hard helps you flex those muscles so that you're not treading water or barely scraping by, or your faith is just at a place of catastrophe when suffering comes to you. And so my encouragement to you, Christian, every single one of you, old, young, kids, seek out hardship. Parents, don't merely take hardship away from your kids, give it to them. Whether it's working out consistently in the gym, right? That's not merely for your body. It's for your soul, it's for discipline. Eat better, not merely for your body, for your soul, for discipline, for the sake of doing something hard. Or reading more, or starting a business, or learning an instrument, or even something like seeking marriage, or seeking children. We should view that, we should think of that as I'm going to voluntarily put myself under the hardship of marriage because marriage takes hard work. It takes hard work to bear children and to parent them in this world. And so we are far more like our Creator and our Savior when we are seeking out hard work than when we are seeking comfort. So may we be in the business of doing that, Christian. Seek out ways that you can voluntarily give yourself over to hard work.